Great to be back on stage. No PowerPoint this time. Although I do want to revisit my presentation because I was going to talk about, I talked about fuel gauges and the fact that we're on empty as it relates to workforce, and too bad we don't have a quick trip we can just pull into. So I promised the quick trip guys I'd give them a shout out. So it'd be a lot easier if we could just do that. Dan Ariens is a past chair of WMC and actually was the one who came up with the concept for Future Wisconsin back in 2014. Dan, I'm delighted to have this conversation. We've been doing fireside chats at many of our major events as a way to learn from some of Wisconsin's best business leaders and iconic companies. It's a great way to get best practices. We're going to talk about some of the issues that have already been discussed today, but we'll also delve into some other areas. So let's start by you introducing yourself. Talk about how your journey with Ariens Company. Talk a little bit about Ariens' footprint here in Wisconsin and globally.
Sure. Thanks, Kurt. And appreciate being here. It's an honor to be part of the Fireside Chat. It's kind of interesting. I listened to the panel. The panel was terrific this morning. It was back in the back room. And as a whole, this event has turned into a really special event. There's a lot of things in this, just listening to the education speaker that we just heard from is a big subject for us. And that kind of is part of, I can talk about that with Ariens Company. So very quickly, I'm fourth generation. My father was our CEO before me. My grandfather and great-grandfather Henry started the Brilliant Iron Works, lost that in the Depression, started Ariens Company kind of the next day, borrowed money from his aunt, cashed in his life insurance policy and paid the employees before the Depression took the Brilliant Iron Works out. So here we are today. My children, Julie and I, have 5. All in the business except our youngest daughter, Claire, who's down in Chicago, 26, trying to figure out her 20s. But we're now, Ariens, I think our total employment is just pushed over 2,800 with about 1,900 of those employees here in the United States. And then we have 2 big footprints in Europe, a manufacturing plant in Germany and one in the UK. And so we know a whole lot about the Ukrainian mess, and we know a lot about the European economy right now, especially Germany and the UK, Brexit, the challenges in Germany. So Ariens, as a product, most of you know our snowblower. That's our number 1 product, best brand name. We call it the King of Snow. But some don't know that snow is about 17-18% of our total business. The majority of our business is Gravely Zero Turns, the commercial brand, and the Ariens residential Zero Turns, and then all the products that kind of fit together with that. So we're a manufacturer, big footprint here in Wisconsin, about 700,000 square feet of manufacturing in Brillion, Wisconsin.
How many employees in Brillion?
Brillion is 1,600, and then the rest are scattered around. We're in Shepherdsville, Tennessee, with a parts distribution business with about 75 people. And then Kenosha has about 50 people where we do our distribution of whole goods.
So a fairly large employer here in the state of Wisconsin. That's an
Right.
impressive size. And we'll talk a little bit about the workforce challenge that you have in Brillion, which is not that far away from Appleton, not that far away from Green Bay, but yet difficult. What's the population of Brillion, did you say?
3,300 and I don't know, something.
Okay. And so everyone works at Ariens.
Well, we draw from Calumet County on the west side, where it is growing, which is next to Outagamie. And we draw from the north. We draw from Fond du Lac to Green Bay.
Let's talk a little bit more about the company. Talk about Ariens' values as a company. What are they? How do you share them with your employees?
Yes, I was in the introduction, and our core value system is something we talk about all the time. So be honest, be fair, keep our commitments, respect the individual, encourage intellectual curiosity. So those first 4, as we talk about, and I always say I have a 5-minute, I have a 15-minute, I have a 50-minute speech, and if I have to give the 50-minute speech on the core values, something is really wrong, right? So something's broken. The first 4 core values are just building trust, right? If we're honest with each other, then we understand what fairness looks like, because fairness is really gray. It's a judgment call. You and me have different opinions on some things, but I want us to have a discussion. I want us to have a debate. I want us to talk about why it's not fair, and I can explain, or our leaders can explain what the company needs in terms of a decision on fair. Committed means we're just, we're going to promise, and we're going to keep that promise. And it starts with a customer, and it goes all the way back to a supply chain, and everybody in between there. All of our associates and employees need to be committed to each other and to our mission. And then respecting the individual is really critical and important. It means that we all grew up in different households. We sat at different kitchen tables. We ate and went to schools that are of different either religious denomination or public school systems, right? We all grew up differently, but when we come to Ariens, we're together, and we have to respect the opinions that we all built as we grew up and went to school. So respecting is really important, and when we get to that level, then our level of trust with each other is strong, and we can really take some risk, and risk means we're going to make mistakes, and that's intellectual curiosity. So we're really promoting the idea to go out and try things, and we talk about try-storming, we talk about making mistakes, but failing forward and learning from that.
Talk a little bit about the innovation process, R&D. How important is that to Ariens in your sector of the economy, and how do you do it? And R&D done in Brilliant, or do you do that someplace else?
R&D is in 2 places today, and it's going to be in a third shortly with a plant we're building in Tennessee. But we have a big investment in Brilliant and R&D. Most of our engineering resources are there, but we have product management systems that are fairly robust, with teams of engineers and marketing disciplines that actually talk to customers and figure out what's going on. The best thing in Wisconsin, we were what is that called, Kurt? The
coolest thing?
Coolest thing. That's an easy word to remember. Coolest thing in Wisconsin, our Mammoth product.
Came close.
Came really, what were we, round of 8 or something?
You were in, the round of 8.
Yeah. So, but that's a great example of innovation. So that is a stand-on snowblower, and when you talk about blowing snow, we can throw snow with that machine nearly a football field with 2 different snowblowers. And you think, well, when do you need to throw snow 100 yards? But if you're in the mountains, or if you're in a resort area, but how we designed that, how we developed it, how we tested it, got to market. The only mistake we made was our sales department said it's about a 300 unit a year market, and they were off by about 5 times. So it's been a great product.
Well, I like the innovation of the heated handlebars. That's what I've got.
On the snowblower, yeah.
It may sound wimpy, but I got to tell you, when you've got a long driveway, that makes all the difference in making it an unpleasant to a kind of somewhat pleasant experience. And I'll have to say, on the coolest thing, you made it to the final 8. We can't say Elite 8 because the NCAA tournament, they'll send us a mean letter. You can't use Final 4. They've got that all trademarked. So let's talk a little bit about what you've learned in business. What advice would you give somebody in the audience who's just beginning their executive career in the business community? What is the best piece of advice that you've received that you would share with somebody?
I think I heard it this morning in the panel. Some of the speakers, maybe all 3, mentioned, it's people. But I think that the greatest attribute of a leader is humility. And I have this talk that I give, I haven't done in a while, but I love this. Everything we do in life has to be balanced between, a positive and a negative force. And somewhere in the middle, we have a yin-yang where we have, sort of really important attributes. And confidence and humility bound together are so important. And I don't think you can, confidence is built over time in the lessons you learn and the mistakes you make, and you learn from those, and you don't get defeated. You actually, you put those in your quiver and you say, that one, okay, I understand. I really screwed up here. But humility is when you're successful over and over and over again, and you repeat success, and you decide that you're really better than anybody else in the room, and that you don't put your pants on the same way as everybody else does, which we all do. And I think, so the greatest thing is just always listening and always learning.
So let's talk a little bit beyond the actual corporation, because one, as I mentioned, former chair of WMC, you were also the chair of the outdoor equipment manufacturers.
A couple times,
A couple times, okay.
I have the record for, which says I've been around a long time. I think it's 3 times.
Packers Executive Committee. I might ask you a question about the Packers at the end. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. You may not be able to. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And there was a Packer board meeting yesterday, was there not?
Yeah, the big board yesterday.
But let's talk about your community investment, because you've done a lot for the city of Brillion, and you've done it for the right reasons. One, you want to give back because you feel blessed as a successful business, but you're also doing it because you want to create the seeds for the future. So talk about your Olympic Nordic Center, your Round Lakes Farms. You've done some apartments, because we talked to I think it was in the video, I said that we have to look to the past in order for solutions for the future. We were talking a little bit about Kohler Corporation. Of course, the American Club was a dormitory for immigrants to work in the factory right across the street. Talk a little bit about some of those initiatives that you're doing, investing in the Brillion area in order to make it better and improve quality of life, but also to help your pipeline of workers.
Yep, thanks, Kurt. So you asked earlier about how big is Brillion. It's 3,300 and whatever. When I graduated from high school, 1977, we were 3,300 and something. And so we have not grown. We have turned people over, but we decided about a decade, well, it's actually almost 15 years, it's more than 15 years ago, when we invested heavily in the high school STEM education. With a $1.3 million education curriculum and building around STEM, and said, at that point, I didn't think we knew where we were going to go. I just knew that we needed to make a great education system in our public schools in Brillion, so that we could show, the surrounding communities that, hey, Brillion's a great place to make home. We've had to continually build on that. So the most recent thing is the hospitality business. My father died in 2015, and he had a lot of farmland around Brillion, and I purchased that out of the estate just because I'm the only one of our siblings that is in Brillion, and it kind of kept it in the family. But as I looked at it, I wanted to figure out what to do with this farmland. So we created event venues. One is Stone Prairie, which is, I found barn ruins buried under some trees and found the foundations. We cleaned it up, put a Doug fir structure over it. It's really a beautiful outdoor event venue. And then I popped a British greenhouse in the back just to give it some structure. And now it's really an outdoor event venue, which opened right at the time COVID came. So
Good timing.
Yeah, dumb luck. And then the barn, Round Lake Farms, if you go on our website, you can see Round Lake Farms is, I had an old barn. It was falling over, so we tore it down. I saved the silo, and then built a new barn. I think it's a beautiful
I've been
facility.
there. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, and then on that 200 plus, almost 300 acres, very beautiful rolling hills. It's, what is Wisconsin known for? It's really, geographically, it's a beautiful state. So we are a sponsor for the U.S. Biathlon Nordic Ski Team, had been since 2018. Been to several events in Austria, Germany, Norway, Italy, and it's a fun sport. And 2 of the athletes are from Wisconsin. Julie and I are having dinner with one of the athletes, Deidre Irwin, who's from Pulaski, and Paul Schomer, who's from Appleton. And we're sitting in Germany with the accordions going and tapping a keg, and thought, wow, how do we do this in Wisconsin? And then so we open. If you want to do some Nordic skiing, we are making snow right now. We should open in 2 weeks, but our grand opening is January 6, 7, 8 that weekend. It's free skiing. Come up in Nordic ski, and we do have an Olympic biathlon shooting range. So our goal here is back to the beginning. Our goal is to build Brillion to 5,000 people. Stop the slide, and then we want to have an Olympic athlete in the biathlon within 10 years.
When's the next Winter Olympics, and where is it?
Oh man, you were going to ask me that. I think it's 2004.
Anyone know?
6?
14 in Italy. Okay, very good. So when we're watching that, we'll probably have some people from Wisconsin. Well, you would know, definitely. Yeah, you would definitely know. I want to delve into a little bit more. You referenced Brilliant High School. You've got a relationship with Northeast Tech. Oftentimes, the best practice that I reference when I'm talking about the relationship between business and academia on what we should do, the communication. You share machines with the tech ed department, I believe, and it's so that they are the students are using the machines that you actually use in the factory. They get tours of the factory.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that as a best practice, because I think that that's one of the things that we all have to do in the business community. We can't just wait for people to come to your front door and fill out an application. You've got to go out and recruit. It's like football.
Yeah, that's actually a good analogy. But it's really in the high school that we share the equipment and the machines, not the tech. But the tech we're very close to them as well. But back to starting the STEM program in the early days of whenever that was, 15 or more years ago, we connected our CAD systems with them, so they have a lower grade CAD, but they can do. I think it's over a decade ago, we had a emergency project where gas engines are fully. We have to comply with the emission standards around the country for EPA and then CARB in California. The high schoolers helped us design a gas tank, right? So, and what a great thing for a high school to say, well, if you're a junior or senior in high school, you're designing a gas tank that's now in production and, getting shipped around the world. So giving kids a great experience and seeing that, hey, in business, I'm actually, I get it, right? I get why I'm doing all this math and science, because now I can apply it to something tangible. Is a lot of fun.
Again, it's a best practice. There are other examples of that, but we certainly encourage businesses to get involved. We had our statesmanship reception last night, and I got a chance to talk to John Ashley, who's the head of the School Board Association, and we talked about this, the need to make sure that academia and school boards are having conversation with business leaders about what jobs are going to be available and what the skill set is, so that there are no surprises. We have to work on this together. And actually, as you know, because this was your idea, the idea of Future Wisconsin was to have business, academia, and government come together to address those longer term problems.
I just want to add something
Please.
to that. Right now in Brilliant, I meet quarterly with the school superintendent.
Excellent.
And we have an agenda, and we talk about, hey, what can I do? What am I looking for? How do I get our engineering talent together with your kids? So, that's a routine activity for us.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you're facing with this economy. It's an uncertain economy. We had an economist at the WMC yesterday who said his forecast for 2023 was choppy. Yeah. Which is economist talk for it could be a little rough. There are other economists that are predicting a recession in 2023, whatever that looks like. We've already had, the first and second quarters were negative decline, which used to be the definition of a recession. What do you see happening, and what is the biggest challenge that you have? Workforce, supply chain, the economy, inflation, interest rates going up?
Yeah, choppy means all of the above. So I would say I was encouraged to hear Jane Blaine talking about her optimism. I remain fairly optimistic. I said to you last night that, I told our team somewhat honestly and bluntly, but also a little bit of sarcasm, like, I'm done with inflation. So tell all of our suppliers I'm not taking another price increase. I'm done. Leverage matters in this conversation with our suppliers, but they did come back to me, and we are seeing some producer price declines, right, in transmissions, in steel, in copper, in our plastics. And if you think about a big zero turn, it's as complicated as making a car. You don't think about it, but bill of material is 400 pages long. The number of part numbers on that bill of material with its subset of parts, sub-assemblies of parts, it's thousands of part numbers that go into one machine. So you can imagine the things coming at us from the inflation side. But on workforce, that constantly is a problem. That hasn't gone away, and it still continues to be. We kind of look at it as chronic 200 people we're short of in Brillion. We're pushing back on the inflation. We're really curious about demand, and is our demand going to hold? Because you know us as seasonal. I'm waiting for a snowstorm. You just told me 4 inches in Madison. I'm very excited about 4 inches of snow in Madison tonight. Nothing like a white Christmas. And then we're looking at spring. You know, when the spring hits, and it's usually March 15 in North America, I want to see zero turn start to go. And I don't really know right now. Our biggest customer, single customer, is Lowe's. We're exclusive to Lowe's, and then we have a lot of regional partners that have statewide coverage. I would say the statewide regional partners are fairly optimistic, like Jane. Lowe's is playing very cautious on their inventory take.
So you didn't mention supply chain. Talk a little bit about supply chain. Did you have trouble because of the COVID problems? Is it untangled?
It was COVID, it was Texas and the petrochemical blow up, which we're now coming over. And then labor became a part of supply chain problems throughout and down into the supply
Your
chain.
suppliers couldn't find workers, therefore it was in,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it's, I think the supply chain is healing, but when I talk to friends like the Bergstroms who are in the car business, they still are having a hard time getting cars, so.
You mentioned COVID a couple times. How significant was it for you? You know, manufacturers can't have people work remotely. You can't make a snow throw from your basement office. How did you survive?
I'm kind of glad you asked that, because now I can get kind of snarky. But so just like I'm done with inflation, and I told our team we're done, when Governor Evers said non-essential businesses have to close, there was no definition of what essential and non-essential was, not a very clear definition. We didn't wait around to figure out if we were. I told everybody, we're essential. I don't care what somebody wants to tell me. Until you tell me I'm not, I'm essential. So we never did shut down. We never stopped our production. We had a lot of people that went out sick, and we were very lenient with, so we were running with sometimes 40%, sometimes 60% of our labor pool that was coming or going, but we just never stopped. And we were safe, and we wore the masks, and we did what we were, we did what we thought was right to be safe. I'm not one that's very good at taking orders from
Government?
Government.
Well, it's the first government shutdown that we've had in our 173 years of statehood, and I think what we learned from it is that we should never do that again.
I just, I was so frustrated with people who I know are free enterprise thinkers who just decided to lay down and stop. And I thought, this is not what this country's about. And we had the police come to, brilliant police, but we had and I'm not, it wasn't state troopers, let me put it that way. But we had them come and say, hey, I've got neighbors complaining that you're open. And they came 3 times, and I didn't go out there to the receptionist, but we just gave her instructions to tell them, yeah, we're open. I mean, this is what we do. We make lawnmowers.
But yeah, Governor Evers, to his credit, actually he did contact us. His people contacted us when they were looking at the shutdown order, and we gave them the language from Ohio as opposed to Pennsylvania, which had the broad shutdown, because we wanted to make sure that manufacturing and the supply chain stayed open and defined as essential. So that's what you should tell those guys.
So WMC saved me.
So.
All right.
You talked a little bit about what you do for the pipeline with K-12 and the tech college. What else do you do to recruit and keep workers? Talent is obviously the major challenge that the vast majority of our members have. Will for the foreseeable future, probably beyond mid-century, unless unless we have so much snow that we have, a baby boom or something like that, which is, so we hope for power outages at WMC. So,
Yeah.
but short of that, and short of some sort of immigration reform that helps a pipeline of immigrants coming into Wisconsin who can work in the vital industries, what are you doing to sustain your workforce?
Well, there's sustaining the workforce and trying to recruit them, and that whole piece, I would say, is just the right culture, right? Having the right culture where people want to be part of your business, they want to be part of our family, they want to be part of the message of, we're making I say we're not a real sexy business, right? We're making a lawnmower, we're making a snowblower, and the best
still
part.
Pretty cool. I've toured your factory. It's still pretty darn cool.
A snowblower. I get more letters about people that write me handwritten. Dear Mr. Ariens, please tell all your employees how much I love my snowblower. It got me through the blizzard of, pick a year or a month. And they come from all over the world. And that's probably as exciting as we get. Cutting your grass is really, if you think about it, my elevator speech is, it's a moment of peace, right? It's peace and quiet. It's this in the cup maybe, or something else in the cup holder. And it's like 2 hours of nobody disturbing me, right? My phone is off, and cutting the grass and the smell of a fresh cut lawn there's nothing like it. But back to the workforce, the other thing is we just have to automate. We have to automate our plants. We put a significant investment in our Brilliant plants, 1 and 3. It's higher speed presses, it's 12K lasers, it's AGVs that are moving components through the plant. So we're eliminating any indirect labor that we can in our manufacturing system. Many people know us as being, sort of grandfathers of lean manufacturing, which goes back to my early career as CEO in the late 90s. I mean, that was our mantra then was, we're not going to move our manufacturing to China. We're not going to leave Brilliant. So you got to help us make this a world-class facility. And trust, encouraging intellectual curiosity, and people coming up with a better way to make a widget or assemble a widget is where all of our best innovation came from in the plant.
So we've talked about automation in the past. I remember about 5 years ago we had a conversation, I think when I toured your facility, and you had told me about a substantial investment in automation. But you said something that has struck with me. You said, but Kurt, at some point we need human hands to touch this product.
Yeah, and assembly, right? You can't. Whereas in automotive plants, you see robotic assemblies of, installing wheels and dropping engines in or putting glass on, or you still see a lot of people there in an assembly plant. It's very hard to automate the process of assembly. There's lots of, getting nuts on bolts and actually torquing them down, bringing a single nut over to a wheel hub assembly. It needs human hands to do that. And we need the intelligence of really good assemblers to be able to bring us ideas on how to do it safer and better and faster, more productive. But that's one of the challenges we have in the state. And I heard Wade say it, we need to grow the state of Wisconsin and the employment. We need to get people to come to Wisconsin or have more babies and keep them here. But we're opening a new plant in Tennessee because we need 450. We're chronically short of 200 people, and we're going to Fayetteville, Tennessee, just north of Huntsville, and we're going to build I think it's going to be 450,000 square feet of manufacturing there.
Which breaks my heart, because I hear this again and again from major Wisconsin manufacturers that they're expanding someplace else, and they're doing it not necessarily because of business climate issues. They're doing it because of workforce pipeline, because you're investing in Tennessee. That plant hopefully has, a 50-year lifespan, if not beyond? I mean, so that's a major investment for decades that you need to make sure that there is the right business climate, tax, litigation, regulatory, but also to make sure that you've got the pipeline of workers. In addition to all the other things we talked about, your resume, you used to run, you chair Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. Tell us what we're doing right in economic development and what we need to do better on.
I don't know what we're doing right now. Because I don't know, and I'm not criticizing. I don't know. When we were there, what I think we did right was really to engage with the business community, talk to them about their challenges, whether it was workforce or supply chain, or in those days, just infrastructure, roads and things. That I don't know how we're doing that today, but with Mark Hogan, who was there, Mark was terrific as the head at WDC, and he and I worked very closely together. As controversial as Foxconn was, there was an upside, and here's the thing we missed. We missed an opportunity to put a chip manufacturing plant in that same
Intel.
location, and it went to Ohio. I don't think we even talked to them, and I don't know, but what I read and what I hear is we didn't talk to them. And we should be in all those conversations, right? When we decided on Tennessee, Wisconsin wasn't in the conversation. And we didn't pick up the phone and call WDC. And I'm not saying that because I'm pointing a finger at them. I'm just saying, we needed to be where the market is, which is growing in the Southeast, right? We needed to be closer to our market. So Wisconsin can't compete with that, right? Our biggest market is from Texas to Florida and the Carolinas and Virginia and over to Tennessee and down in that quarter of the U.S. So Wisconsin's always going to have a traffic problem. But even if we said, hey, let's put it down in Kenosha or the southeast of Wisconsin, Racine, that area, we weren't going to solve a problem with workforce. I really think tax reform would encourage not just someone that's got a big checkbook, but anybody who's in the middle class that's paying too much taxes in Illinois is going to want to move to Wisconsin if they have the right tax motivation.
And some of Illinois' tax rates are actually below us.
Yeah, they're a flat tax in Illinois, so income tax is lower in Illinois. It's all the other taxes that.
So along those lines, what's most important? Property tax, personal income tax, corporate tax?
I would say property and personal income tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Governor Evers just won re-election last month. So I'll ask you the question. He's in the audience right now. What advice would you give him from a public policy standpoint on what his emphasis should be for the next 4 years of his administration? And I'll also include, sitting next to him, which is improbable, Robin Voss and Devin Levenhue. And I say
one
that
over
because
there and one over there.
Hopefully they're sitting together.
Yeah. Well, the constant thing is really growing this state, and it's not growing its GDP, it's growing its workforce and growing its population. We're building this Nordic Center in Brillion. Winter, we shouldn't be afraid of winter. I'm not afraid of winter. We're in the snow business, but I don't think people really leave just for the great weather, right? There's a whole lot of other issues. If you get into the heat, I don't know why you want to be in Houston in March or May through September. It's unbearably hot, and so is Florida. It's beautiful in Wisconsin in the summer, and if you can put up with about 2 months of winter, that ain't bad.
2 months?
I'm telling you, the snow business lasts about 90 days, so
and I will echo that. So many people in the audience know I came from Phoenix. I'm a Wisconsinite, but I went to Phoenix, and I always tell people I'll take a Wisconsin winter over an Arizona summer because you really can't do anything out there.
Right? Yeah.
Some people like it. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think you're absolutely right. I don't think we should be embarrassed that we have winter, and we have great Nordic sports. Yeah. We've got curling. We've got snowmobiling, ice fishing. We have the plethora of sports, and I think that we need to sell ourselves. And to your point about tax base, there certainly is evidence that colder weather states are attracting people when they reform their business climate and their tax base to try and draw people in.
Right. Well, I don't know why, if Wisconsin were leading on tax reform, why we wouldn't draw from Minnesota, which is a much higher income tax state and property tax state. Why we wouldn't draw from Illinois, which there's a lot of reasons to bring it from there, and Michigan, right? There's a whole lot of reasons to come to Wisconsin. From Michigan, you get the same climate, you get the same, Midwestern values, and you have a lower cost of living.
And we are doing well. I mentioned in my opening remarks that we are drawing from Illinois. We're drawing a little bit from Minnesota, too.
Yeah.
The fact that we've invested in broadband means people can work in western Wisconsin and telecommute into the Twin Cities. And the Twin Cities is also the gift that keeps on giving because it's really deteriorated since 2020. We don't have much time left. And as promised, I do want to ask a couple questions about the Packers, if you're willing to field them. Should we start Aaron or should we start Love for the rest of the season?
Aaron Jones?
No, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. You knew what I meant. Nice try.
Well, as long as we have a glimmer of hope for the playoffs,
and we still do.
Yeah, we should start Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, very good. Is he back next year?
Wow. I don't think
I didn't warn him about this, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Dan, what question did I not ask that you wanted to answer?
I think you kind of hit everything. I do want to talk a little bit about the larger audience. And I'm not, just to kind of use this as an example, but I'd love to see each one of us in our communities figure out a way to really have a direct connection with our high schools or public and private schools with the CEO. I really think we can influence the thinking about business and how business is actually, the heartbeat of the USA, right? And we create jobs, we create middle class, we create opportunity. You don't see anyone at the border trying to get into Russia or Iran or China. I mean, why is it that and I don't want to get into immigration because that would be, if all of us business leaders decided we could fix immigration, we could do it in 10 minutes, right? So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but if we could start to influence thinking at the school administrators level so that we become advocates for, positive influence in how business and school can work together. I guess that would be a message I'd leave.
And I agree with you on immigration. I think the business community ought to put its foot down and insist that a Democratic administration and a Republican, at least House of Representatives, work together for some sort of, I think comprehensive blows it up. I think it needs to be piecemeal on visa reform. Do it piecemeal and get it done because we need it. But you spurred another question, and I've got 1 minute before they start putting something on that screen there telling me to get off the stage. Reindustrialization, we're hearing a lot of that. I think a lot of folks have figured out that maybe China is not a frenemy anymore. They're actually an adversary, economic and perhaps beyond that. Maybe we've got a Cold War brewing with them. So supply chains or manufacturing in China, much of it is being encouraged to reshore to the United States. The term now is reindustrialization, which I take umbrage on because we're a manufacturing state and we don't need to reindustrialize.
Yeah.
But talk about, what do you think that the president and the Congress could do to try and encourage more manufacturing, maybe reshoring back to the United States?
Yeah,
get out
of the way.
Yeah.
Just get out of the way. Milton Friedman, I think, said, if you wanted to screw up a desert, put the government in charge of sand. So.
Sounds good. All right, well, it's a good way to end.
Yeah.